I'm going to try and deal with the fact it feels like the inside of my throat is being run down with a cheese grater every time I speak right now, because I want to talk about the recently announced price drop for the Xbox One. Starting on June 9th, there'll be an SKU available for $399, and it's not going to have the Kinect. It took 6 months, but it actually happened, and while I'm not surprised that there is a Kinectless SKU, well, that doesn't really make sense. I'm not surprised because that's what they would have to do to bring the price down $100, but I am a little surprised they actually followed through with it because of how much talk there was about how the Kinect is so vital to the Xbox One experience and how much is tied into the user interface. So I'm a little surprised they went with that, and rather than keeping the Kinect and going down to $450 and taking a bit of a loss, but I suppose the numbers just aren't looking good. I haven't seen the April NPD yet, so I don't know. I'm sure they know. I don't. There's a few questions that come to mind right off the bat here, and the first is this finally the end of that original vision for the Xbox One we saw a year ago? Sure, they turned the DRM around, but a lot of people were vocal against Kinect, and now the last kind of piece of that is gone. And I'm sure a lot of that is the fact Phil Spencer is now in charge of Xbox. There's a new CEO of Microsoft. So just a lot of change at the top means policies and how they view their products is going to change. But Microsoft would constantly talk, even throughout 2013 and into 2014, about how, we still believe in our original vision for the Xbox One. It's just that consumers weren't ready and yada, 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 which I think you don't do that when you're trying to convince people to give you $500 for a new product. You don't go out publicly and say, oh yeah, we still believe in this thing that everyone was really vocal about how much they don't want, because they weren't ready, because the consumer wasn't ready. And that's just brain dead. Like, one of the first things people should know in business is the customer is always right. That is the motto you live and die by. And while that may not necessarily always be true, because sometimes people are stupid, you still have to abide by that when you're trying to convince people to give you their money. So that's really the reason why Sony has been so successful in comparison to Microsoft, is because people are kind of looking to Sony and be like, hey, I want to give those guys my money. They're not screwing around with me. They're not jerking me around. They're not basically insulting me. And that's just the view I have of it. So anyways, it looks like the 180-degree turn may finally be complete here, and that's a good thing in my opinion. Amidst what can be conceived as a mixed bag of press, because I mean the price going down, good, but the reasons for it not so good, and some of the impacts it's having not so good, such as how many people are actually going to buy Kinect as an accessory. I figure it's probably going to be priced probably between $75 and $100. I figure is where it's going to be. That seems to be the general consensus. So how many people are actually going to want to go out and buy this thing for that much money, especially considering it's not going to be essential anymore because it's not going to be packed in. You can't really create something that you need for a system if it's not packed in every box anymore. And what kind of effect is that going to have on developers like Harmonix, who are making Kinect-only games? How many developers are going to go out of their way to have useful and meaningful uses for Kinect in their games if they know not everyone's going to have it? There's about I think 4.5 million Xbox Ones sold or something like that right now. So that's 4.5 million Xbox Ones that have Kinects. A few years from now, how big of percentage of the user base will have a Kinect? And that's gonna have a big impact on how developers work with the Kinect. And another thing is, as pretty much everyone I know who owns an Xbox One has told me, the user interface is an absolute disaster to use with the controller. Like, without Kinect, it is absolutely god-awful. So, how long is it going to take them to overhaul the interface and make it work with the controller again? Are they just going to revert to, like, the Xbox 360 dashboard with a few of the Xbox One features thrown in? Because if you release a console and the UI is basically impossible to navigate and you don't have Kinect, that's problematic, might be putting it a little mildly, actually. I'm sure Microsoft will have something out by June 9th, seeing as there's a month to go, and this has probably been in the plans for a little while. But it's still another kind of hurdle they have to overcome on this last leg of the 180-degree turn. And another big thing is more on this side of the negative side of what I already said was a mixed bag of PR. And that's how many early adopters kind of feel used, feel kicked in the balls by the fact that 6 months after they drop $500 down on this console and we're told you have to have Kinect, there's a $100 price drop and Kinect is no longer bundled in. I mean, I've talked to a couple people who say they're a little pissed off about it. I'm sure there are more people who are pissed off. I'm sure there's probably a larger group that just doesn't care. Because that's the thing with all the stuff that's going on the internet. We are just like, we're the vocal minority. We are the incredibly vocal minority. The large majority of people who buy these consoles just don't care. And that's kind of why this stuff seems silly sometimes, but I enjoy talking about it, and I'm sure some of you enjoy listening to me talk about it for some reason. I don't know. Why do you find me interesting? But it's got to feel like a bit of a kick in the balls to at least some of the early adopters saying like, hey, you know, I never wanted Kinect, but I wanted the Xbox console, so I bought it. Anyways, now you're telling me if I waited 6 months, I could have had it for $100 cheaper and wouldn't have Kinect? Like, that's, yeah, I mean, that kind of sucks. I know for me, I wouldn't be, like, fuming about it, but I'd be kind of going like, oh, that's kind of shitty. I could have waited 6 months? You serious? But at the end of the day, this had to be done. It was inevitable. Microsoft, while the Xbox One had really good numbers at the start, it was trailing off, and it was falling behind the PS4. And the fact that even with Titanfall, it couldn't outsell the PS4 in its home market in North America, which is the big market for Xbox. It's the UK and the US that are the big markets for Xbox, and the rest of the world is pretty much PlayStation land and always has been. The fact that it has lost the lead there and couldn't regain it even with Titanfall was a huge red flag for Microsoft, and this has all got to be reacting to that because they got to turn things around. And to be honest, that's fantastic. Competition is good. The gamer wins in the end, because if Microsoft starts doing stuff to try and undercut Sony's going to have to react and try and get back under so they can maintain their lead, and you know, prices will go down. We'll get tons of games, and like I said, the consumer wins in the end. We win. Hopefully Microsoft does let their old vision stay dead, because it needs to stay dead, and they need to bring the games. I know personally Sunset Overdrive, which was recently shown off with gameplay, has caught my interest, and with the lower price, the Xbox One is a little more interesting, at the least. So that's what I have to say on the Xbox One price drop. Is it too little too late? I don't know. We'll see after E3. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the Xbox One price drop in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, share it around. I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to stop talking because my throat hurts. I'll see you next time.